The United Kingdom has identified Nigeria's waste management sector as a huge potential for revenue generation. The UK Minister for International Development, Mr. Nick Hurd, made the observation during a visit to the recyclers plant in Lagos. He says the UK is ready to support Nigeria in transforming waste to wealth.
This is a massive pile of waste waiting to be turned into a money-spinning venture. The United Kingdom delegation, led by the Minister of International Development, Mr. Nick Hurd, is at the recyclers plant to see how they can work together and turn this dump site into vast revenue.
In this particular project, what we're offering is technical assistance to the management, helping them think through their business plan to see how they can scale what you see behind us to other sites across Lagos and therefore do more of what they do. But this is a small part of what the British government does in terms of supporting development in Nigeria, which is an investment every year that we make of around £400 million sterling every year.
The team leader of GEMS, one of the agents in the waste to wealth chain, explains the mode of operations in this partnership.
As far as waste management is concerned, we think it is a very good opportunity, particularly in urban areas, to create jobs and to create incomes for poor people, and that's what we're doing.
The coordinator of the recyclers team, Mrs. Bilkis Abiola, highlights her plans in expanding the waste to wealth project.
They want to encourage us and help us to scale up, and we're looking at how we can engage with them to see how we can spread the recycling message all over Lagos. So hopefully we can, have a partnership with them. So recycling, waste to us is not a waste, it's a resource. These waste that you see here are actually raw materials that recyclers use to make products. For instance, these bags that you see that are piled up here will be taken to a factory and turned into poly bags.
How these opportunities can make more money for the nation is the focus of those involved in this waste to wealth project.
Investors and consumers have been given the assurance that the federal government will come up with tariffs in the power sector which will be fair to all stakeholders. The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Power, Mr. Louis Edozien, said there is a need to improve on the responsiveness of distribution companies to ensure all customer complaints are resolved.
In view of the many challenges of electricity supply across the country, experts in the power sector all gathered at Odupani Power Plant in Cross River State to find solution. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Power, Mr. Louis Edozien, says there is need to roll out more meters for all its customers.
So the situation where many customers do not have meters and the distribution companies use all kinds of mechanisms to bill them is not healthy, it's not sustainable, it is not the intention for the industry. 3 million customers don't have meters. It's not something that happens overnight. So at these meetings, we monitor the extent to which the DISCOs have started that work in acceleration of what they committed to when they invested in the companies, and I think I can report that they're making serious efforts.
The Permanent Secretary also discloses that ECO, Kano, Kaduna and Jos DISCOs will aggressively deploy recently procured meters starting in May 2016. He adds that the federal government is doing all to see that every single customer is metered in the shortest possible time as he monitors the extent to which DISCOs have accelerated distribution.
The issue of tariff, I think, has become very contentious, and it is the purview of our regulator. It is their statutory and legal responsibility to balance all the concerns and come up with a tariff that is balanced. Now, they attempted to do that in December. They listened to power stations like this. You can see what is here. The owners of this station need to earn money to pay for all this. It wasn't built with nothing. So they need to earn money to pay for it. The lines that carry the substation switchyards, the lines that carry the electricity, you can see the size of it. it needs to be paid for. It's the tariff that pays for that. Then you come to the distribution company, the injection substations, the operations. It needs to be paid for.
At the end of the monitoring exercise, it was resolved that Port Harcourt Disco, Calabar and Ibom power plants can proceed with their bilaterally negotiated agreement to supply 150 to 250 megawatts of electricity.
We move on to sports now. Here's Charles Eruka.
Thanks, Ijoma, and welcome to Sports News. There are indications that the national under-23 team will feature at the annual Toulon tournament in France next month as part of their build-up for the Rio Olympics. This will be the second time Nigeria will feature at the Toulon Football Festival, which will kick off from May the 18th through the 29th. The Flying Eagles played in the 2013 edition on their way to the Under-20 World Cup in Turkey. Some of the qualifiers for the Olympics have already confirmed their participation in the Toulon tourney. In club football, holders Barcelona suffered a shock Champions League exit as Antoine Griezmann's double sent Atletico Madrid into the semi-finals. The Frenchman scored in both halves to shatter Barca's hopes of a La Liga, Champions League and Copa del Rey treble. Bayern Munich secured a fifth consecutive semi-final appearance by battling past Benfica 3-2 on goals aggregate. And France forward Karim Benzema will not be selected for Euro 2016. Benzema was indefinitely suspended from the France team in December 2015 after he was placed under investigation over an attempt to bribe France teammate Mathieu Valbuena over a sex tape. The Real Madrid striker has been accused of complicity in the attempt. Legal restrictions barring Benzema from coming into contact with Valbuena were recently lifted, but the case has not yet been resolved. Now in tennis, Novak Djokovic has been knocked out of the Monte Carlo Masters by world number 55 Jiří Veselý. The world number 1 was beaten 6-4, 2-6, 6-4 by the Czech. His first exit as early as the second round since the Madrid Masters in 2013. Veselý had never before beaten a player ranked in the world's top 10. 11-time Grand Slam winner Djokovic had won his past 22 matches in Masters competitions and 9 of his past 10 tournaments. And the Djokovic juggernaut gets knocked out. Game, set and match on Sports News. It's back to Ijoma with the rest of the news at 10.
Egypt's president has responded to those criticizing his government's deal to hand 2 Red Sea islands to Saudi Arabia. Some groups have also condemned Egyptian government's investigation into the murder of the Italian student. Now, the president assists and says in his announcement that Egypt would hand over the islands, and it was made during a rare visit by the Saudi King Salman, in which he pledged billions in aid and investment to Egypt. And the Republican Donald Trump has accused the National Party's leaders of conspiring against him. He says the party leaders do not want him to win the presidential nomination. His comments came after his rival, Ted Cruz, was awarded all the delegates in Colorado without a statewide vote.
$58 billion a year.
And the main news again. The president today made his strongest comments on the anti-graft war. President Muhammadu Buhari described corrupt persons as insane and said they will face the same treatment that others will be and not be spared. Also today, the federal government reaffirmed its decision to prioritize the safe return of the abducted Chibok schoolgirls 2 years after they were abducted. And Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has fired back at his critics over the government's decision to hand 2 Red Sea islands to Saudi Arabia. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Hunyato. You have a good night.